Chapter 1. The Misfit of Orion Academy. Orion Academy was the pride of the Galactic Federation, a place where the brightest young minds from hundreds of species gathered to hone their talents. It was known across the universe as a bastion of knowledge, a crucible where future leaders, scientists, and warriors were forged. Students from all corners of the galaxy competed fiercely for admission to the Academy, and only the most exceptional were granted entry. Yet amidst the many extraordinary students, some with scales that shimmered like diamonds, others with telepathic abilities that could pierce any mind, there was one student who seemed entirely out of place, a human girl named Lyra Sloan. From the moment she arrived, Lyra was marked as an outsider. She was the only human in her year, perhaps in the entire academy. Humans were generally regarded as a weak, backward species in the eyes of the Federation. They had no natural powers or advanced technology compared to the other species represented at Orion. In fact, the majority of humans in the galaxy remained confined to their homeworld, Earth, which was seen as little more than a curiosity, a quaint planet with limited resources and outdated beliefs. Lyra, however, was different. She had fought tooth and nail for her scholarship to Orion Academy. Her entrance exam results had shocked the admissions board, her scores placing her in the top 1% among all applicants. But despite her academic prowess, life at Orion was anything but easy. The other students sneered at her, mocking her as a primate and a primitive who had no business being among them. They would whisper as she passed, and some even went out of their way to make her life difficult. Instructors praised her intellect, but also gave her pitying looks, as if they expected her to break under the pressure at any moment. But Lyra didn't break. She was determined to prove herself, even if she had to do it alone. Her days were filled with intense study sessions, simulations, and physical training. She spent hours in the Academy's expansive library, devouring information on advanced physics, energy manipulation, and starship engineering. While her classmates socialized and formed tight-knit groups, Lyra focused solely on improving herself. Her isolation was complete. No one invited her to join study groups, no one partnered with her during lab exercises, and no one sat with her in the cafeteria. But Lyra was used to being alone. Back on Earth, she had grown up as an orphan, shuffled between foster homes in the crowded megacities of New Asia. Her upbringing had been rough, filled with uncertainty and constant change. In a world where few cared about the welfare of a lonely child, she had learned to rely on no one but herself. It was that fierce independence and inner resilience that had driven her to chase a future beyond Earth, to escape the limits placed on her by society. Getting into Orion Academy had been her dream, the ultimate proof that she could achieve something great despite the odds. Yet even as she worked tirelessly to rise above her circumstances, Lyra couldn't shake the nagging sense that she didn't belong. No matter how hard she tried, it seemed impossible to break through the invisible barriers that kept her apart from her peers. They had grown up in worlds of privilege, surrounded by technology and resources that humans could only dream of. They could access knowledge effortlessly through neural links, while Lyra still relied on her own brain power and ingenuity. They wielded abilities like telekinesis, energy manipulation, and psychic communication, while Lyra had to rely solely on her wits and determination. The Academy itself was a marvel of galactic architecture, located on the vibrant, lush planet of Celestis Prime. Its grand towers rose above shimmering blue seas, and its campuses sprawled across floating islands linked by shimmering energy bridges. The Academy's halls were filled with wonders: holographic teachers capable of instantaneously shifting between subjects, zero-gravity sparring arenas, and laboratories equipped with tools that could manipulate the fabric of reality itself. Lyra often found herself in awe of the technology at her fingertips, but she also felt out of place amidst such splendor. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling training session in the simulator, Lyra found herself in one of the lesser-used sections of the library. She was searching for information on quantum entropy theory, a topic that had been giving her trouble. The library was quiet, save for the faint hum of data streams and the occasional flicker of a hollow scroll being accessed. Lyra's eyes scanned the glowing spines of books and data cubes, but her thoughts drifted to the constant feeling of isolation gnawing at her. No matter how much knowledge she accumulated, no matter how skilled she became, she was still seen as inferior. The Academy's prestigious reputation made her achievements seem small in comparison to the other students who were born into wealth, power, and influence. As she walked down the rows of towering shelves, she overheard a conversation coming from a secluded corner of the library. Two Sealand students, tall, slender beings with skin like flowing mercury, were speaking in low tones. Lyra paused, curious. The Sealand were one of the more enigmatic species at the Academy, known for their mastery of energy manipulation and their cryptic ways. They often kept to themselves, but this conversation had an air of conspiracy. "It's hidden in the heart of the Forbidden Zone," one of them said, their voice a melodic whisper. "They say it's a relic from the ancient wars, a power source that was sealed away because it was too dangerous." "Whoever controls it would be unstoppable," the other replied, their silver eyes gleaming. "But only a fool would try to access it. The zone is off limits for a reason." The Forbidden Zone was a restricted area deep within the Academy, shrouded in mystery and heavily guarded. Students were forbidden from entering under threat of expulsion, or worse. The few who had tried had never returned. Stories swirled among the students about the strange things that lurked there, ancient defenses and traps left behind by long-extinct civilizations. But what truly intrigued Lyra was the mention of a power source. Could it be some kind of advanced technology, perhaps even a weapon? The very idea sent a thrill of excitement through her. That night, as Lyra lay in bed, the conversation replayed in her mind over and over. She couldn't shake the feeling that this power source was connected to something greater, something that could help her finally prove her worth. Curiosity gnawed at her, but it was more than that. It was as if something deep within her was urging her to seek it out. Despite the logical part of her mind telling her to stay away, a deeper instinct called to her. For once in her life, she felt like she was on the verge of discovering something that could change everything. The next few days were a blur as Lyra formulated a plan. She studied the Academy's security protocols, analyzed the guard rotations, and reviewed old blueprints of the facility. The security systems were state-of-the-art, designed to stop even the most determined intruders. But Lyra was nothing if not resourceful. She had spent her life hacking into systems far more primitive than those of the Academy, and though this challenge was daunting, it was not insurmountable. When the time finally came, Lyra moved with precision and caution. Dressed in black to blend into the shadows, she slipped out of her dormitory and made her way to the edge of the Forbidden Zone. The towering, reinforced doors were sealed with a complex biometric lock, but Lyra had already prepared for that. Using a makeshift neural link device she had cobbled together from spare parts, she hacked into the security system and rerouted the power, temporarily disabling the alarm. Her heart pounded in her chest as the doors slid open with a low hiss, revealing a dark, cavernous tunnel beyond. The Forbidden Zone was a labyrinth of twisting corridors, filled with ancient technology and strange glyphs etched into the walls. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, as if the place itself was alive and watching her. Lyra's senses were on high alert as she moved deeper into the darkness, guided only by the faint glow of her wrist-mounted scanner. The further she went, the more she felt the pull of something powerful, something that resonated with the core of her being. Finally, after what felt like hours of navigating the maze, she reached a vast chamber at the heart of the zone. The walls were lined with towering statues of unknown figures, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. But at the center of the chamber was the true prize, a massive crystal, suspended in midair and pulsing with a soft, ethereal light. It was unlike anything Lyra had ever seen, its surface shimmering with colors that defied description. As she approached the crystal, she felt a surge of energy wash over her. It was as if the crystal was alive, responding to her presence. The closer she got, the stronger the pull became, until it was almost overwhelming. Her body tingled with an unfamiliar sensation, a warmth spreading through her chest that grew more intense with each step. She reached out, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the crystal's surface. The moment she touched it, A blinding light filled the chamber. The energy within the crystal surged into Lyra, enveloping her in a torrent of power. Her mind was flooded with images and sensations, memories that weren't hers, echoes of a forgotten past, and knowledge that defied understanding. She felt as if her very essence was being rewritten, transformed by forces beyond her comprehension. When the light finally faded, Lyra collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. The crystal's glow had dimmed, its energy seemingly drained. But within Lyra, something had changed. She could feel it, a new strength, a power that had awakened deep within her. It was like a flame burning in her soul, raw and untamed, waiting to be unleashed. Dazed and disoriented, Lyra staggered to her feet and looked around. The chamber was silent once more, the statues staring down at her with cold, unblinking eyes. Whatever had happened, it was clear that Lyra was no longer the same girl who had entered the Forbidden Zone. Something within her had awakened, something that could change the course of her destiny forever. Chapter 2. The Awakening. Lyra's life at Orion Academy changed drastically after that night in the Forbidden Zone. What had once been a daily routine of isolation and relentless study now felt completely foreign. She could sense it from the moment she woke up the following morning. Something within her was different, more potent, more alive. The energy that coursed through her veins crackled beneath the surface of her skin, like barely contained lightning. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, half expecting to see some visible change, but outwardly, she looked the same. The same determined green eyes, the same wild brown hair always threatening to spill out of its ponytail. The same slender frame she had worked hard to keep in peak physical condition. And yet, she felt more than human, more than herself. That day in class, it didn't take long for the others to notice. Lyra could feel their eyes on her, staring, whispering, speculating. Her arrival had always drawn attention, but this was different. It wasn't just the usual sneers and dismissive glances. There was curiosity mixed with unease. The energy she had absorbed from the crystal hummed beneath her skin, and no matter how much she tried to suppress it, it leaked out in subtle ways. During a combat simulation, the first incident occurred. The simulator was designed to test students' combat prowess by pitting them against a series of holographic foes. Lyra had always struggled in this arena. While she was quick and agile, she lacked the natural physical enhancements and abilities that her alien peers possessed. This time, however, something within her responded instinctively as the first opponent materialized, a towering six-armed beast with razor-sharp claws. Lyra's muscles tensed, and without thinking, she raised her hand. A pulse of energy exploded from her palm, slamming into the creature and disintegrating it in an instant. The other students gasped, their disbelief palpable. Even Lyra was stunned. She had never been able to do anything like that before. Her heart pounded in her chest as the simulation continued, more opponents appearing in rapid succession. Each time she unleashed blasts of energy that tore through them as if they were made of paper. By the end of the session, Lyra stood alone in the center of the arena, surrounded by the smoking remains of her defeated foes. The instructors who monitored the session exchanged worried glances before calling it to an abrupt halt. When Lyra exited the simulation room, she was met with a sea of wary eyes. The students who had once mocked her now looked at her with fear, unsure of what she had become. The news spread quickly. Within hours, the entire academy knew that Lyra had displayed powers far beyond what any human was supposed to be capable of. Whispers of the incident in the Forbidden Zone reached the ears of the faculty, and soon, Lyra found herself summoned to a meeting with the headmaster. Headmaster Talon was an imposing figure, a Zarthian with skin that shimmered like liquid gold and eyes that could see straight into a person's soul. He was not one to be trifled with, and his reputation for strictness was legendary. As Lyra entered his office, she could feel the tension in the air. Several high-ranking officials from the Galactic Federation were also present, their expressions grim. "Lyra Sloan," Headmaster Talon began, his voice low and resonant. "We have received reports of unusual behavior during your combat simulation today. It seems you have unlocked abilities that are unprecedented for a human." Lyra straightened, refusing to show fear. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. It just came out of me." "Indeed," one of the officials muttered, scribbling notes on a holographic tablet. "This is highly irregular. We've never encountered a human with such capabilities." Talon's eyes narrowed. "We have reason to believe that your powers are connected to the crystal in the Forbidden Zone, a crystal that was meant to remain undisturbed." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "I know I shouldn't have gone there," she admitted, "but something drew me to it. When I touched the crystal, it felt like it was meant for me." The officials exchanged concerned glances. One of them, an Aquarian with translucent blue skin and deep-set eyes, leaned forward. "The crystal is a relic from the ancient war that nearly tore this galaxy apart. It was sealed away because of its dangerous potential. For it to respond to you in this way, it suggests a unique connection." "Or a unique threat," another official interjected coldly. "Enough," Talon said sharply, silencing the bickering. He turned his gaze back to Lyra, studying her intently. "The question now is what we do with you, Miss Sloane. Your newfound abilities could be invaluable or catastrophic. We cannot allow someone with such power to go unchecked." Lyra's stomach twisted with unease. She could see where this was heading. They were going to turn her into an experiment, a weapon. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said, her voice firm. "I just want to understand what's happening to me." The headmaster's expression softened slightly. "Then you will need training beyond what we offer in our standard curriculum. You will be placed in a special program where your powers can be monitored and honed, for your safety and the safety of everyone at this academy." It wasn't a request. It was an order. The following weeks were grueling. Lyra was removed from her regular classes and placed in a secret training facility deep within the academy grounds. The instructors there were experts in controlling energy, combat, and mental fortitude. They pushed Lyra to her limits, forcing her to confront the extent of her abilities. At first, the power was wild and uncontrollable, surging out of her at the slightest provocation. But gradually, she began to master it, channeling the energy with precision. She learned to generate barriers of pure force, project energy bolts, and even manipulate gravitational fields. Each success brought her closer to understanding the true nature of her power. But there was a cost. The more she delved into the energy within her, the more she realized that it was changing her. She could feel it, like a living presence inside her mind, a presence that whispered of ancient knowledge and untold potential. It was intoxicating, but also terrifying. She feared losing herself to it, becoming something other than human. As her training progressed, it became clear that Lyra's power was far greater than anyone had anticipated. It wasn't just raw energy. It was a form of energy manipulation that defied the laws of physics, bending reality to her will. The instructors were astonished, and even the headmaster seemed uncertain of how to proceed. There were whispers that the Federation was considering removing her from the academy entirely, to be taken to a secure facility where she could be studied in isolation. Lyra couldn't let that happen. She had to find answers on her own terms, before they decided she was too dangerous to be left free. But to do that, she would need to break free from the academy, and that meant taking a risk that could put everything on the line. Chapter 3. The Journey Beyond. The decision to leave the academy wasn't one that Lyra made lightly. For years, she had poured every ounce of herself into proving her worth, into carving out a place for herself among the elite minds of the galaxy. Leaving meant abandoning the only structure she had known, the only place that had given her the chance to show that humans could be more than what the galaxy believed. But Lyra knew that staying would mean surrendering control of her life. The Federation would dissect her powers, use her as a tool, and ultimately strip away her freedom in the name of security. She needed answers, and she couldn't find them trapped in a facility where every move she made was monitored. The energy within her, now a constant presence, seemed to agree. It urged her to break free, to seek the truth about what she had become. The pull was strongest when she thought about the ancient crystal, its origins, the forgotten war it was connected to, and the dormant power it had awakened in her. If she could learn more about those lost secrets, Perhaps she could gain control over her abilities before they consumed her. So, Lyra made her plans. She spent weeks subtly gathering supplies and equipment, all while pretending to comply with her training regimen. The instructors overseeing her progress remained cautious, but they had no idea she was planning something bigger than anything they could predict. On the surface, she played the role of the obedient student, hiding the turmoil and determination brewing beneath. The night of her escape was dark and moonless. The Academy's usual gleaming lights were dimmed, and the energy barriers surrounding the campus hummed with their usual vigilance. But Lyra had spent enough time studying those defenses to know their weak points. She had also learned to manipulate her power with enough precision to temporarily short out the security systems without triggering an alarm. As she moved stealthily through the shadows, her heart pounded in her chest. She reached the outer perimeter and placed her hand against the shimmering barrier. Closing her eyes, she focused on the energy within her, coaxing it to sync with the frequencies of the barrier. It resisted at first, but Lyra's control had grown stronger, and within moments, she felt the familiar surge of energy as the barrier flickered and faded, creating a small gap just big enough for her to slip through. The cold night air hit her face as she stepped beyond the Academy's borders. For the first time in years, Lyra was free, truly free. But there was no time to savor the moment. She had to reach the nearest spaceport before her absence was discovered. From there, she would leave the planet and head to the outer rim, where the Federation's reach was weak, and rumors of ancient secrets ran wild. Lyra reached the spaceport just as the first streaks of dawn appeared on the horizon. Using the credits she had saved, she secured passage on a cargo ship heading to a remote world called Rithana. It was a name she had come across in her research. A planet that had once been at the heart of the ancient war, now reduced to a barren wasteland. But more importantly, it was rumored to be the location of a long-lost archive that held the secrets of the power she now wielded. The journey was long and uneventful, giving Lyra plenty of time to think about the life she was leaving behind. As the stars streaked past the viewing ports, she couldn't help but feel a pang of uncertainty. Had she made the right choice? Was she walking into a trap? But each time doubt crept in, the energy within her responded with reassurance, guiding her forward. When the ship finally arrived at Rithana, Lyra was greeted by a landscape as desolate as she had imagined. The planet was a dusty wasteland, its skies tinged with red and its surface scarred by ancient battles. But despite the harsh environment, she could feel the energy pulsing beneath the ground, like the heartbeat of something long forgotten. The closer she got to the source, the stronger the pull became. Following her instincts, Lyra trekked across the barren terrain, navigating rocky canyons and long-abandoned ruins. Days turned into weeks as she delved deeper into the planet's forgotten history, piecing together fragments of knowledge from crumbling monuments and decaying databanks. The ancient civilization that had once thrived on Rithana had been masters of energy manipulation, far beyond anything the modern galaxy understood. Their technology had been powered by crystals similar to the one Lyra had encountered at Orion Academy, crystals that could harness and amplify the innate energy within living beings. But it wasn't until she reached the heart of a ruined city, its towers crumbling and half buried in sand, that she found what she had been searching for. Hidden beneath the ruins was a chamber sealed with intricate glyphs, designed to keep out intruders. Yet as Lyra approached, the energy within her resonated with the seals, and they unraveled like threads, granting her access. Inside the chamber, she found a massive archive filled with glowing data crystals, each containing vast amounts of knowledge. But one crystal, larger than the rest and embedded in the center of the room, drew her attention. As she reached out to touch it, a voice echoed in her mind, a voice ancient and wise. "Welcome, Chosen One. You have awakened the power of the Guardians, a power that has lain dormant for millennia. It is both a gift and a curse, for it will grant you strength beyond measure, but will also test your will. Only by understanding its origins can you hope to control it." The voice guided her through the process of accessing the data stored within the crystal. It revealed the history of the Guardians, a group of beings who had once protected the galaxy from a force of unimaginable destruction. They had wielded the same energy that now flowed through Lyra. But their power had come at a great cost. The energy was not simply a tool, it was alive, an entity that craved purpose. If left unchecked, it could consume its host, turning them into a vessel for its will. The revelation sent chills down Lyra's spine. She now understood the risks of the power she had awakened. But she also knew that she had a responsibility to use it wisely. The galaxy was on the brink of turmoil, and the Federation's machinations threatened to bring about another catastrophic conflict. If she could master her abilities, she might be able to prevent history from repeating itself. But to do that, she would have to face the entity within her and prove that her will was strong enough to resist its influence.